Oklahoma hasn't won a national championship in almost 25 years, and even though they've made the playoffs 4 times, the Sooners have never won a playoff game. That's why I'm going to give myself 5 years to save them, but we all know how difficult playing in the new SEC is, and I have to complete these 6 hard challenges in order to consider myself successful. For the first time, there's no limit to how many games I can jump into though, because it's going to take a lot to turn around this current roster, and if I fail even just one of these video challenges in the 5-year rebuild, I have to give away another copy of College Football 25 to a random commenter. Oklahoma used to get Heisman winners all the time, so that's why we have to have 2 of them in this rebuild, but I had to add a lot of very high overall recruits so we can hopefully have some, and these are the players that are on our board at the moment. Getting talent in's not going to be the problem, and we might be able to make the playoffs a lot too, but it's just getting over all those humps, turning them into a powerhouse again, and if Jackson Arnold can just cut out these turnovers, we might have a really good season. He's only a sophomore, so we should have him for a bit, but my biggest concern is how our defense will do. We all know that the Sooners are not known for that, and they are going to also take down Tulane, but after that, SEC play is going to start, and because this roster is only losing 3 seniors after this year, we're in the clear to pursue after these high overall prospects like quarterback Adam Johnson, who's really well-rounded. There's also tight end Calvin Johnson, and that would be awesome if we could get him here, but first, we have to do our best to keep winning, and it looks like Graham Mertz is injured. That means even though we have to play at the Swamp, I'm hoping that we're able to start 3-0, but that might not happen because with 2 minutes left in the 3rd quarter, we are all tied up at 21, and that's good D. From this point forward, every possession matters a ton, and they should have to only kick a field goal, but Cam Carroll almost snuck by our defense. I've been enjoying using Jackson Arnold so far, though. He does have some speed on the ground, and the quarterback is going to fight his way all the way into the end zone. The Gators would respond back with a touchdown of their own, but I'm sure we're going to be able to get one ourselves as well, and that would win us the game, so ideally this could be our final drive. Gibson's going to take it to the 35, and we just keep getting closer, but we then take a sack. Now we're really going to need our corner route or something to get open here. I guess we could go to Nick Anderson, and no matter what happens on 3rd down, I want to go for it on 4th down, but Gavin is definitely fast enough to get in. He's only a sophomore as well, so the offense has a bright future, but defensively, we still have to lock up the Gators one final time, and that's what we're going to do with Williams. Getting the interception, we have sealed the game. 3 turnovers to 0 is the big difference, and Gentry Williams makes us 3-0. Jackson Arnold continues to score a lot too, so we've got a lot of momentum I wasn't expecting, and since not much else is open, everybody's going to come on a visit versus Arkansas. There's no reason the Razorbacks should take us down, and Georgia's up next, so I want to say that we could make the playoffs in the first year, but I have to remember that we are playing in the SEC. Everything's only going to get harder from here, even if Nick Anderson, our wide receiver, is somehow 2nd in the Heisman race. He's currently averaging over 100 yards and 2 touchdowns a game, so I was hoping that would make guys like quarterback Adam Johnson want to come here more, but we're still struggling to beat out all these other schools. We did land these 3 defenders though, which will help us in the future, and if we're going to have a visit week late in the season, it's got to be against our rivals Oklahoma State. This is where things could get tough though, because we have to play on the road at Georgia, and approaching halftime, we've done fine offensively, but they've put up 28 points against our defense, and you've got to be kidding. I just tried to take down Carson Beck, but somehow he escaped, and this is why you don't drop a Big 12 school in the SEC, because we just couldn't keep up. I would argue that Jackson Arnold's stat line wasn't even bad, because I feel like he outplayed Carson Beck, and the sophomore might need to figure out how to play some defense too. Luckily for us though, that loss does not drop us far in the polls, and we could still win our division since some of these teams have not gotten off to a good start. Jackson Arnold's even hopped up into the Heisman race, and that's important because somehow we have to win 2 Heisman trophies, but another thing we have to do is have a winning record versus Texas, and I'm not feeling good about this one since they're coming off 3 straight losses. The Red River rivalry is such a big deal, and I'm hoping our defense shows up for this one, which it did considering with 2 minutes left, this is a low scoring game. It's the first time that I've really had any issues with Jackson Arnold, and he can't get it out, so it is 3rd and 14, and there's only a minute and a half left. We are going to have to work really hard to get this comeback. A field goal is definitely possible, and here on 4th and 6, I don't really like any of these routes. We're going to have to hope for the best, but I messed up, and we can't stop the run against CJ Baxter until maybe this penalty flag just bailed us out. Never mind, it was against us, and they're not even trying to score. That's back-to-back weeks with tough results, but you have to keep in mind that we are a young team, and I do think Oklahoma's overall has been done a little dirty here. They'll probably be like an 87 on the new game, but if we beat LSU, we could still make the SEC championship, and when it comes to recruiting, we've continued to sign players like tight end Calvin Johnson. With receiving stats like this, we might as well just make him a wide receiver, and it feels like we've played on the road for all of our toughest games. That means next season though, we'll get to host all these teams. I can't believe how much our offense has fallen off though. We've not been able to get a single point in this game against the Tigers defense. Playing in Death Valley was actually no joke. And on 4th and 3, I'm gonna flick over the halfback screen to Gavin where he just gets enough. All I want to do is finally score some some points. I can't believe we've made it this far without him. But a comeback is probably off the table, and we'll see how things end up playing out. It's a shame that the SEC has to be this difficult, but Gavin could improve a lot still. He just ran over that linebacker, and our defense did a fine job all day until this drive. LSU's taken a lot of clock with them, and on 3rd and inches, they're going to pick up another first plus more. So this is our 3rd straight game that we've lost, and we have to reevaluate what we're doing as a team. I mean, at least we're still picking up commit after commit, but we can't lose again, and I think our best move is just going to be to simulate up to week 13 and week 15, where we have 2 more tough ranked games. We might still be in the running for the playoffs if we can win the rest of them, but Missouri just beat us by 1 and Texas A&M beat us by 27. I'm not gonna lie, we have really fallen off to end this first year, but when it comes to signing players, we picked up these 2 athletes, quarterback Adam Johnson, a cornerback, and then Kevin Yancey. We keep bringing guys in, including 5 5-stars, so I think we might get the #1 class, and that's the only challenge we can complete this season. And I don't see any purpose in playing any more games since it is already over. After that 3-point loss though, we might miss making a bowl, so I should probably just play the Bedlam series. I hate that it's been discontinued in real life, but it's locked into our schedule every season on NCAA Football 14, and with a minute left, we are driving down the field to take a lead on Oklahoma State, which we're about to do. If there's anything we can take away from this year, it would be beating them, and that's going to happen, assuming they don't somehow reach the end zone on this last play. Alan Bowman gets it up though, and we have plenty of guys in the area to just swat it down. They didn't do a great job of it since he was able to catch it, but Jackson Arnold made sure that we still got the win, which will put Oklahoma in the Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl. The Heisman winner went to UCLA's running back, TJ Harden, and that's probably because he put up 18 touchdowns, while our running back, sophomore Gavin Sawchuk, only put up 13, but his stats were still good. I'm also really happy with Jackson Arnold because he cut out most of his turnover issues, and he's just gonna have to figure out who he wants to make his #1 wide receiver going forward. This was not how I thought the first year would go. Oklahoma should be like 8-4, but if we can beat NC State, it won't be the end of the world, and I'm still thinking about all of the video challenges. I've never given myself as hard of ones as I did for this video, but I felt like it was only fair because Oklahoma isn't in a bad spot and we will take a touchdown. They didn't give it to us, but we can just make sure that we get it here, and assuming NC State doesn't score in these final 30 seconds, we're gonna win the Sun Bowl. Now that I think about it, 7-6 really isn't the end of the world. It's just Oklahoma fans would probably be very disappointed if that happened this next year, and come on, can we just end this game already? They're at midfield, so the odds of them actually scoring a touchdown are still low, but our defense can't seem to make a tackle, and on the final play of the game, they are throwing it up to the end zone, but we had somebody get up to it. Oklahoma is your Sun Bowl champions, and that actually mattered because it caused both Nick Anderson and Gavin Sawchuk not to declare for the NFL draft early, and we did lose a couple players to the transfer portal. That's bound to happen in this era of college football though, and there's only one player we're going after in the offseason. With the addition of him, we secured our spot up here at #1 in the country recruiting class wise, and that's going to knock off our first challenge of the video, plus just make sure our team is so much better going forward. I just remembered though that I have to win 2 national championships in this video, so we're in for a challenge, and it's only right that I make Calvin Johnson a wide receiver. As for these athletes, it wouldn't hurt to put Julius Silva at quarterback, while Zach Snyder goes over to wide receiver where he's a 79. Then we have Paul Burley coming in at a 73, but when we make him our running back, he's a 78. And I've recruited so well that I don't even know what to do with Blake Bishop, but I guess we'll take another halfback. Assuming that everybody develops pretty well here at Oklahoma, we should be a higher overall than we were last season, and Petaway just got a +7 boost. Jackson Arnold only went up by 3 though, so that's something to keep an eye on. And gearing up for this second season, who I redshirt starts to become more important. The freshmen will be with us for the rest of this rebuild, but guys like Javonte Barnes could come back for another year. And any player that's a sophomore that's not going to start for us is going to sit out for a season. I'm also going to have to make sure that I recruit positions that are going to fill our team needs. And why on earth would Oklahoma also schedule Michigan in real life? I have to base the schedule off of the real life ones, and we're not even supposed to be a top 25 team, but I think that's going to change because we're a 93 overall. Just looking at the rest of the SEC though, it's so good that we're projected to be the 11th best team, and when it comes to recruiting, these are the main guys that I'm going after, especially focusing on building up our offensive line. If we lose to Temple, there's no hope for the rest of the year, but we beat them, and I think this is where we have to start playing games. This is one that's going to be super hard to come out on top of, but if we do, it sets us up nicely for the rest of the year. And let's just say that Jackson Arnold's playing out of his mind. He's thrown for 5 touchdowns so far. Our defense looks really good, and I don't know how Michigan's ranked 4th in the country. We are going to exceed expectations for sure, and to win by 25 like this is amazing. Our backups got plenty of time out there on the field too, and I'm so excited for the rest of the season. We've been moved up into the top 25, but our quarterback's nowhere to be seen on the Heisman watch list, so I'm hoping that he goes off against Arkansas. We can't hop into everything, so what I'm going to do is just simulate to week 7 at number 13 Texas, and I can't believe that Arkansas just took us down, but we do beat Ole Miss. So we've bounced back, and against another Mississippi school, we come out on top. Going into week 7, it looks like we could actually make the SEC championship because we have the tiebreaker over Mississippi State, but this is going to be a tough stretch. We have to beat Texas though. We lost to them last year, and I wish I could schedule players for a visit for this game, but it's going to have to be against Alabama. I think this game against the Longhorns is about to be really tough though, because they beat us last season, and they're sitting at a 97 overall, which might be the highest in the country. That is why it's so crucial that we open up this game with a touchdown, and also that we're getting defensive stops on 3rd and 12. We have a great user in Kanak. He is like 91 speed, and Quinn has nowhere to go. I'm kind of surprised that he's still in college, but it could cause a problem for us as they've stayed in it offensively, and we tried to bring CJ Baxter down there, but he just ran through us. Going into halftime, it's set up to be all tied up at 14 right now, but I would love to get at least a field goal. And this wheel route to our running back could be really good. I wanted to wait on it. Now we're going to have to hit a route bounce, and that is wide open. We are inside the 40. We keep threading it through their defense, and that is a touchdown. So I hooked up with the freshman to put us up by 7, and the longer that this game goes on for, the better that I'm feeling about it. We might have to take a field goal here in the 3rd quarter, but that would still put us up by 2 possessions, and we are going to go down at the 2, which means I think we have to go for it. I think this motion's going to really confuse them, so we can just hit Anderson in the end zone, but it didn't work out, so our defense has had to get another stop, and they do. They've improved so much from last year, and I've not learned my lesson about being aggressive on 4th downs, but this one worked out for us. With 4 minutes left in this game, we're getting very close to taking a 14-point lead on the Longhorns, and if things don't work out on 3rd down this time, I'll just kick the field goal, but Tatum, our backup, gets in. Taylor Tatum's only a freshman because I redshirted him last year, so we should have him for the remainder of this rebuild, and we just have to pick up a few more first downs after Texas scored a touchdown. It is nice to know that we're going to win the Red River rivalry. Salchuk is going to seal the game, and that means in this rebuild, we are now 1-1 versus Texas. This time around, it's the Sooners that get to celebrate winning the Red River rivalry, and we're following it up with another really tough one. Every player on our board is on a visit, so we cannot afford to lose here. But before we continue this Oklahoma rebuild, a word from IPVanish, today's video sponsor. One thing that always drives me nuts when watching sports is sometimes there are games that are blocked out based on my location that I want to see. That's one of the main reasons that I care to use a VPN, because with IPVanish, there are over 90 server locations I can choose between, and it's super easy to switch between them in their app, which makes any platform believe that you're in that location so you can access content that you couldn't otherwise see. Another reason to use them is you have no idea who on the internet is trying to steal your information, and a VPN creates a layer of protection between your device and the internet. The IPVanish network is secured with advanced encryption standards, which have been independently verified, and I have IPVanish on both my phone and my 2 computers. If I had other devices, I could put it on a lot more though, because they have apps for Windows, Mac OS, iOS, Android, Amazon Fire Stick, and so many more. Using IPVanish gives you access to an unrestricted internet privately and securely, and you can even try IPVanish's VPN 30 days risk-free. If you want to do that while saving on a yearly plan, go to ipvanish.com/board or click the first link in the description. And football's coming back soon, so keep that in mind whenever you want to watch something that's blocked out because of your location. But now it's time to get back to the Oklahoma rebuild, and I would hate to leave our home crowd so disappointed. They might be though, because Jalen Milroe decided to stay for his senior season, and trying to stop him from running the ball is always super difficult. To end the first half, I'm just gonna have to try my best to keep the Crimson Tide out of the end zone, and after not picking that up, they're running back to the line to get off one more play. I got stuck on the lineman, and that is not how I wanted to end the 2nd quarter. I didn't even think they were gonna get the snap off there, but we are in some trouble. It is 3rd and 13 that we pick up, and I think we have to go for it on this 4th and 3 that our offensive line did a great job on. We'd score a touchdown after that, but so would Alabama, so it really didn't help us that much. And as we approach the end of the 3rd quarter, I'm just hoping that we're able to get it back within a possession. I already know this is going to be an extremely tight finish, but it's our fault we're in this position. We could have played better offensively. And on 3rd and goal, Jackson Arnold's just going to have to hit somebody. Jaquez Petaway, the player that improved 7 overalls this offseason, made the catch, but Alabama has moved it down the field against us, and they're going to have another tutty. This is not unfolding the way I was hoping it would. They get the 2-pointer too. And on 4th and 10, I'm hoping one of our wide receivers can get open deep, but I see the slant instead, so that's what we had to go with. I don't like the position that we are in right now, but there is still time left in this game. We have our timeout, so it's not like this thing is completely over. And on 1st and goal, we're just going to hand it off, which is going to get us to the end zone. Getting Alabama off the field is what's going to be difficult though, and of course they had somebody open where I never thought they would run the ball, but what can you do about it? We might have just gotten them out of field goal range though with that sack. It looks like this is going to be well short to Nick Anderson. Anderson, and you know what? I have to take this return out. The game could have just changed for us. I don't know if he has the speed to outrun all the players on the field. But this one is not over. We have 51 seconds and a dream, and you know that we are already going to get that far down the field. Alabama should not have given us a chance. Now I feel like we are going to clutch up. But I panicked, took a bad read, and now the clock is running away really quick. That's why we have to find Nick, setting us up inside the red zone, and I think we're going to have to try to escape the pocket. But I should have thrown it away, and we can't do anything. I got way too confident there at the end, and I was not expecting to see all of these players commit despite our loss, but I guess they like how tough we played against the Crimson Tide. There's only a couple other guys that we have to sign now, and it wouldn't hurt to see if there's any other prospects that we should be adding to our board. I am finding gym after gym with players that aren't even being recruited by most colleges, and I have to recruit like that if there's any chance of us completing all 6 of these challenges. Approaching the end of the year, right now Texas A&M is sitting on top of our division, so I might want to skip over the LSU game since we just struggled against Alabama and play them the week after, but that's risky even if we are the higher overall team. We are projected to win though, so I have to take that. And let's just hope that Sim sees it the same way, which it doesn't. Of course, the one game that I don't hop into, our offense can't do a thing. And Texas A&M is sitting in a really good spot in our conference. Even if we beat them, they're still making the conference championship, and we should be doing better as a 93 overall team. Part of it's my fault. I can literally hop into any game that I want, but sometimes when I do, we just don't show up defensively like we haven't in this first half at all. We're about to get it back within 7 points, but they continue to do just enough to stay ahead, and come on. If we could just hold them to another field goal, we'd be fine. But Le'Veon Moss just had one of the dirtiest stiff arms I've seen in a while. We'd also get put on a 3rd and 30. I don't even want to explain how that potentially happened, but I don't think we're going to be able to get out of it. And this is nuts. We shouldn't even be in the game at the moment, but Jackson Arnold is playing out of his mind. On 2nd and 6, we have a designed rollout where he is going to have a corner route, and he almost got picked. But he didn't, and our slant route should get open. With 3 timeouts remaining too, we could get Texas A&M off of the field, but we have to hold them on this 3rd and 6, and Connor is going to fall short or not. They said he got just enough. I thought they might pass there, but he decided to run it instead, and it's a shame that we've lost our 4th game of the year. That's going to ruin our chance at making the playoffs, and all I'm going to do is just simulate to the end of the season because there's not anything to look forward to. At least we have Vanderbilt on our schedule, which should be an easy win, and we're going to end every year with the Bedlam series, coming out on top and finishing at 8-4, but that's just not good enough in the SEC. We now have to win 2 Heismans and 2 championships in 3 years, and there's no guarantee that we win this bowl game. SMU is an 81 overall though, so that does help our case, and I'm hoping that we have at least 1 first-team All-American, but that is not happening. Nationwide though, Jackson Arnold was a 2nd-team All-American, so if we were just better as a team, I think he would have been in the Heisman running. Those stats are incredible, but he's probably about to lose his top 2 targets, and if they declare for the draft early, plus Gavin Sawchuk does too, we could be in trouble offensively. I don't know how these final 3 years are going to go, but ideally next season we at least make sure that we get into the 12-team playoffs, and this bowl game against SMU was never close. We did a fantastic job against them, beating them by 3 possessions. To my surprise, those 2 years actually got us a 7-year extension, but there's a lot of different players on this players leaving screen, and I love to see that both Gavin Sawchuk and Jackson Arnold are staying, but we're losing a transfer that's really good, and also our 2 best wide receivers. Nick Anderson never went over 1,000 receiving yards though, so we might be just fine without them, and we'll see how our guys improve. We've also done a pretty good job whenever it comes to recruiting, signing the #1 class in the country 2 years in a row, and I didn't realize how easy it was to get that whenever you use a big school. Just looking at position changes though, I am a little bit worried that our top 9 players are all seniors, because that means they only have 1 more year with us, and we have another quarterback. This is an insane QB room, but somebody's got to transfer out at some point, and thankfully athlete Scott Wilcox is not another quarterback, but he can play on our offensive line. We needed that, and since we lost a corner to the transfer portal, we could always use another guy at that position, so I think once we look at our roster, assuming guys develop, things are going to be just fine, and I just hope that there's no regression during player progression. Some of these guys didn't improve as much as I was hoping they would, but Sawchuk is up to a 97, and the lowest overall players on this entire team are our safeties. We have some good starters, but we could always work to get some better guys behind them, so that's what I'll be targeting since we don't have that many team needs. The only player that's even getting a red shirt is this JUCO linebacker, so we have him in seasons 4 and 5. And of course this season we have to play Michigan again, but this time it's on the road. On the bright side though, because our halfback returned, he's projected to win the Heisman, and this year we could make the SEC championship, projected to finish 5th in the conference. I like how the season's starting. They have us up here at number 13 in the country too, but it makes sense being a 95 overall team, and we'll see how it plays out. I think we have to hop into this one to start the year, because if we lose to Tennessee, it could all go downhill. And approaching the end of the first half, we do have a lead, but it needs to be by more than 4 points, and we're getting the first. Now I'm really hoping for man-to-man coverage, but because it was zone, we had to wait for that route to get open, and Cade McIntyre is the reason that we're going up by 11. Ever since then though, we haven't done a single thing offensively, probably because of backup running backs in, and I'm not saying that Taylor Tatum's bad, but he's no Gavin Sawchuk who sprained his elbow. If we could avoid settling for a field goal though, we would be just fine, and Jackson Arnold takes the sack. So it's going to be a 1-possession game with 3 minutes left. We could get them off the field on this 3rd and 10 though, and we are going to make the tackle, which means they're going to punt it back to us. And I've never understood why the computer does that, but one more first down is all that we're going to need, and it's going to have to come through the air as they're running man-to-man coverage, and our corner route did get open in time, but it was a little bit short of the marker, so I think we're just going to have to lean on our defense, and that punt did not go exactly where I wanted it to. Tennessee's put up a really good fight, but our defense has also done a fantastic job, and on 3rd and 10, of course, Nimrod was able to get open in the middle of the field. We should have just stuck with the man-to-man coverage that was working, and on 2nd and 10, it looks like they are going to just have their running back in the flat, who can clearly hold on to any ball, and on 3rd and 6, they went back to him again. I don't know why they would do that there, but our man-to-man coverage is locking up, and it seems like they are going to be well short. That is exactly how I wanted to start the season, even if Jackson Arnold didn't put up the best stats, because I think we can build on that as we continue to climb up the polls. I'd also like to point out that the prospects we are targeting at this point in the rebuild are such high overalls, so we're only going after the best of the best. Last year, I remember having no issues with Michigan, but we have to play at the big house this season, so that could change things. And it's nice to have Gavin back in the starting lineup. Injuries could really hurt us if we have a lot of them during the year, but when we're healthy, we seem to be just a tad bit better than our opponents. And again, what I'm noticing is it's our defense that's making the real difference. Michigan's only scored 14, and they're so intimidated that with 3 minutes left, down by 10 points, they're punting us the ball back, and that means that this one is probably over no matter what happens. That means we've opened things up at 2-0, and next up on the schedule is Arkansas, so we know that we have another win in our back pocket, and it makes for a great visit week. The Razorbacks are always bad at football. It's pretty much a guarantee, so we should not have even been in a close game. But that one's on our defense because Jackson Arnold played almost perfectly. It would be the reason that both DJ Matthews and then Aaron Bradley, an athlete that has 98 speed, commits to our school, and he's going to be fun to throw somewhere on the field, but we have got to focus up. Right now, we're the only team in our division that doesn't have a conference loss, but we're about to play against Georgia, and if Gavin Sawchuk doesn't play well, he could fall off of the Heisman watch list. Going into it, we are the higher overall team, but the last time we played the Bulldogs on the road, they doubled our score, and it's not on the road, it's in AT&T Stadium. On the field, there is a logo that says the All-State Kickoff Classic, and I don't know how that's possible. We are 4 weeks into the year. I've never seen something happen like this before, and things are not looking too good here in the 3rd quarter. They just scored another touchdown to increase their lead to 24, and they have shut down Jackson Arnold and this offense. We just can't do anything. Gavin's trying his best, but they've been all over us all day. So no matter what we do, we're going to lose to the Bulldogs. With this much time left, we need so much to go our way, and I just can't believe that we came out and played this badly against them. I thought we were going to have a good fight at least. That shouldn't hurt our chance of making the playoffs though, because Georgia is one of the top teams in the country, while that loss drops us all the way down to number 13. With that one matchup out of the way though, we can still win our division in the SEC, and it all starts with the Red River rivalry. I don't know how it happened, but somehow Texas got Will Howard, and there's no way that he still has college eligibility. I have to double check that. It could just be another W Howard, and it's Walker Howard, but Arch Manning's not on this roster. Apparently that kid's at Ole Miss right now in real life, and on 3rd and 8 we don't get it, so we're gonna have to kick a field goal, just like Texas has already had to do twice. Eventually they'd start scoring touchdowns though, so that really puts the pressure on with just a few minutes left in the game, and that was a stressful 4th and 5 to pick up, but we continue to move it down the field until Jackson Arnold almost turned the ball over again, and we've got to be a bit more careful. I'm gonna run back that same play that he messed up on, because this time he should hit the pass, and this is such a huge 3rd and 9 that they are going to be a bit short on. That's exactly what we needed. This is our chance to take a lead on Texas, and I want it to be the final drive of the game. This handoff's gonna go for a bit, and I'll take it. Just a minute left on the clock now. We're chewing the clock very well against them, and a handoff up the middle is gonna take us to the 1. Now on 2nd and goal, I don't know what this play is, but I have to call a timeout, and that didn't help us at all. We have to pick it up in the next 2 plays, and we could be in a little bit of trouble. The pressure is really on here, and our drag route is open, so with 5 seconds left, Mike McMillan just just held onto the ball, and they're trying to ice us on the extra point, but it's not going to make a difference. We have taken down Texas again, and that means we're currently 2-1 in the Red River rivalry. If we beat them one more time, we'll knock off that challenge by having a winning record against them, and as a reward for taking down the Longhorns, we've a freebie the next week against UTEP where we come out on top by a ton. I know I said I wanted to hop into more games in this rebuild, but every single one of them starting to feel more important, and if we want to make the playoffs, we have to keep winning. I'm terrified of simming against some of these teams, because at least if we lose, I can blame myself instead of sim, and I'm also able to take full responsibility for how well we've handled ourselves in Death Valley. We struggled here in year 1, but now we're playing better, and with a 2-point conversion, it could be a 3-possession game. This has been my favorite win that we've gotten all season because I didn't expect it to be this bad, and the Tigers just left their home crowd disappointed. I think Jackson Arnold's legit, even if he's not in the Heisman running, and I doubt Mississippi State stands a chance here. They're 14 overalls worse than us. They have to come play at our place, and we beat them by a lot. But it wasn't because of Jackson Arnold, and it looks like instead it was Gavin who rushed for 5 touchdowns. That ties us with Texas A&M for the first spot in our division, and I think we're good to sim this one against Missouri. It is a rivalry, but I do want to play this one against Texas A&M, and we are going to destroy them. So we're currently in a really good spot to make the playoffs, and all we really have to do is keep on winning. This matchup is first spot in the SEC championship, so that's what makes it such a big deal, and on this 3rd and 10, it looks like they are going to be a bit short. That's what we needed. They'll probably kick a field goal now, but they have come out playing aggressive instead, and they are going to get knocked down. I can't believe that they messed that up, but it also really helps us out because we're pretty much guaranteed to end this first half with a 2-possession lead no matter how this drive ends for us, and I want to throw a hot one over to one of our wide receivers, which we are going to do here. Calvin Johnson, the tight end we moved over there, has caught a touchdown, and with a player like that on your team, you're obviously going to have success through the air. We're about to go up 21-0 if we could block, and it's a shame that Solchuk isn't even in the Heisman running, but he's had some rough games. He'd help us seal it in the end even if the Aggies tried to fight back, and I think we just gave ourselves a top 5 spot. I'll be very interested to see the polls. And there we are, but of course up at number 1 is Georgia, who beat us. Now there's no guarantee that we continue to pick up wins, but we should make the SEC Conference Championship no matter what happens against Ole Miss, and I just haven't focused much on recruiting because we've picked up a few guys that I wanted and we're still in close battles on all of these. I am a little disappointed to see that we lost Brian Roberts to Northwestern, but I'll feel better as long as we win the Bedlam again, and that's where College Game Day has to be in week 15 with us getting another win. This has been a very good year and somebody beat Georgia, but I would have never guessed that it would be Georgia Tech. That means going into the conference championship though, we're ranked number 3 and they're ranked 11, so we could put them out of the playoffs, but then I looked at the injury report. Gavin Solchuk, our best running back, is injured, so we're not going to have him for any of the postseason, and that's led to one of the worst offensive first halves the SEC championship's ever seen. Neither team has even scored yet, and on 3rd and goal, I'm hoping that they don't go anywhere, because that means they have to kick their 3. I was hoping that we could do something with the time left remaining too, but unless this catch works out for us, we're not gonna. And my aggressiveness is probably the reason we haven't scored yet, but sometimes it works. Here in the 3rd quarter, we have been driving down the field, and we are going to get a good run with Jackson Arnold. He just has to beat one guy, but because he couldn't, it's going to Taylor Tatum, the backup. And finally, we have reached the end zone in this game. That has awakened the Georgia offense at the same time though, and on 3rd and 9, we should have an easy tackle here. Come on. I did all that I could there, and now they're probably going to get a touchdown, but that's just how it plays out sometimes, and the option doesn't get them anything. To start the 4th quarter, we have a huge play coming up, and this is where our defense could really make a stand, which we do. It's not pretty, but we still have a lead, and on 3rd and 5, the wide receiver screen for us is not going to work. We have to punt it back to the Bulldogs again, and I've been trying a lot of new things in this game. They're going to get this though. So their drive stayed alive, they'd eventually score, and now they're going for the 2-point conversion. Our lockdown defense there though could have just won us the game because we have 1 drive left to score, and if we do, we're in a good position. So I'm not too worried. I've been taking my time, and their man-to-man coverage cannot stick on our wide receivers. It has not been a pretty day for our offense, and every so often they do well with their man-to-man coverage. There's a reason we only have 7 points, but we're going to run for a ton, and I'm hoping that seam up the middle's open. They're doing man-to-man again, and there we go. Jaden Gibson hangs on. We now have a 1-point lead, and with a 2-point conversion, we'd go up by even more as Jackson Arnold scrambles in. Georgia hasn't done a very good job of getting into field goal range either, so we're going to be fine, and we're about to find out if their quarterback is even able to reach the end zone. He is not. That's going to the 10-yard line. We are going to get the win in the SEC championship. It was a hard-fought one without our starting running back, but it's well-deserved, and this is still only year 3. We have a long way to go since we still have to win 2 national titles and 2 Heisman trophies, and the Heisman trophies are going to have to come in years 4 and 5, but we did get our first team All-American with our defensive tackle, and of course we we also completed a second challenge by winning our conference championship. I was really hoping Jackson Arnold would have been in the Heisman running with stats like these the past 2 years, but it never happened, and if Gavin didn't get injured so many times, he probably would have been up there too. As for our wide receivers, most of these guys are going to be back besides Jaden Gibson, and we're about to find out if we can go on a playoff run with Oklahoma. We got a first round bye because of how good we were, so now we just have to wait to see who we play in the quarterfinals. And this game went to double overtime where NC State could win with a touchdown. They just lost a few yards though with the run, and their quarterback's going to be gone. So Lex Thomas moves them on to the next round. Even though the Wolfpack are a higher seed, that's exactly what I was hoping for because they're only an 83 overall, which sets us up really well to make the semifinals, assuming that we can take care of business here. So far, they haven't stopped our offense once, so I feel like that's a pretty good sign. And I don't know what they're doing defensively over in the ACC, but it's not working for NC State, and that is the benefit of playing a bunch of SEC schools all year. The longer that this matchup goes on for, the better it'll get for us, and Taylor Tatum's starting to get a lot more comfortable. We need that since he's probably going to be our starter next year, and here in the fourth quarter, this game is completely over. We've doubled their score, there's no hope. And shout out to NC State for giving us a pretty easy result. It allowed Taylor Tatum to build up more confidence than ever before, and our next opponent could be a little bit tricky. These teams have the top 2 offenses in the country, so either way our defense is going to have to play out of their mind, and the Ducks would hold on to win this one by 2 points because of their rushing attack versus the Mountaineers. They're undefeated, so I'm a little bit intimidated, but if we win, we're going to be in the national championship. If we're going to win 2 titles in the next 3 seasons, we almost can't lose here because if we do, we have to be perfect going forward. Now, Oregon did get into the end zone first, but we're trying to respond back, and running isn't going to do the trick, so we have to throw the ball instead. Zion Kearney out of the slot's been a great target for us, but now it's 3rd and 8, so we have to get them off the field still, and we don't. That is really frustrating, but we can't expect our DB to cover 2 zones at once, and it might be best to just kick a field goal. It was saying we can't make it from here though, so we're going to attempt the 4th down play, and they've been able to work it all the way down to the 2, but I almost had that, and you've got to be kidding me. That turnover would have changed everything. Now it's 3rd and goal, and we just have to hope that they don't make the right read, and I think we just did the best thing we could have. We made them take their 3, and we've also given ourselves a chance to get points before the half, but I just threw it straight to that linebacker. What was I thinking? The way this route took off, I thought it was a slant, but then he started running deeper, and that's what caused the confusion there. But sometimes the computer makes mistakes in these situations when it comes to clock management, and that sack could be a huge deal. They're still attempting the field goal, but there was no way that they were in range, and now we have an opportunity to return this as the first half ends. I hope we can pick up a couple more good blocks and come on, get to the edge. If Burley was a little bit quicker, he would have been gone, but instead we continue to fall farther behind. With a minute left in the 3rd quarter, we're still down by 17, so we have got to score now, and they followed it up with one of their own, so we're just done. That sack on 4th down is going to seal our loss, and I can't believe that we just lost to the Ducks. That one's going to sting for Jackson Arnold because he's not going to win a championship in his time here, and I think if Gavin Sawchuk was healthy, things might have been different. With the year being over though, we're losing a ton of seniors, and we're also losing a couple players to the transfer portal, which means I have a feeling our team overall is going to drop going into the 4th season, and if I'm going to heavily pursue 2 players, it's these guys. We wouldn't get the free safety though, only the tight end, and everything's starting to fall off, including our recruiting class ranking. I only signed 8 guys, but that's because we didn't have many team needs, and Aaron Bradley, the 98 speedster, would make sense at halfback, but we have so many of them that I have to put him as a corner. We also picked up another offensive lineman that's an athlete, so that's a plus, and then Corey Lacey has 94 speed, so I'll just throw him over at wide receiver. Now we're going to find out how our training results went during the off season, and this is a big deal. I'm hoping for no regression again, and that normally doesn't happen when you have a program as big as Oklahoma's. There's a clear front runner for our starting quarterback, and that's Michael Hawkins Jr., whose stats look pretty good, and he still has 2 seasons left. Then at running back, Taylor Tatum barely improved, so we might start one of these guys, but that's always a tough decision to make, and I think you just have to go with the fastest dude. Not having Michigan on the schedule this season though is a plus, and we've done so well in recruiting that replacing these 7 seniors is not going to be an issue. There's only 2 years left, so who we get at this point doesn't matter that much, but what does matter is we win both a Heisman Trophy and a championship in both of the final 2 seasons, and like expected, our overall has dropped from last year. We're still good at a 93, and we're projected to be the #1 team, but we all know when you're playing a bunch of SEC schools, that can change very quickly, and we still have to get somebody up here in the Heisman race. I've had the playbook set up for 3 years to get a running back there, but now it's time to set our focus on a quarterback, because Michael Hawkins Jr. has a better chance at winning the Heisman than Paul Burley, and because we have to win 2 championships in 2 years, our sim results are so crucial right now. But we came out on top versus SMU, and we're also going to take care of business here. If we didn't though, it would be a big issue considering we're supposed to be the best team. And off of 2 performances alone, Michael Hawkins Jr. is up in the Heisman race. We can continue to sim since we play Arkansas next, but after that, I'm sure things will have to start to pick up at some point, and we only won by 10. Michael Hawkins Jr. showed out though with almost 500 passing yards and 0 turnovers, so he's been doing well, and just looking at this schedule, we might have to hop into our next 4 matchups, which is a lot, but then I saw Mississippi State was a 74 overall. I couldn't tell you why they're ranked in the top 25 with a team like that, but we only beat them by 6. And sometimes I really wonder how the sim engine even works. With both Texas A&M and Texas staying undefeated, there's no chance that we can't face Georgia, and it's an opportunity to get my hands on Michael Hawkins Jr. for the first time. I really wish it was a home game so I could schedule some of these guys to visit our school, but we waited too long to set a visit week, so our only option with all of these prospects is week 11 against Missouri. To be honest, I'm a little bit concerned about hopping into stuff like this, because I throw a lot of interceptions and we're playing at Georgia again. I don't think we've hosted them this entire rebuild, but we're having a pretty good day, and with 2 minutes left in the third quarter, we went up by 10. Getting them off the field has been our biggest weakness, but on this 3rd and 2, I was hoping Hicks could get over to make the tackle, and come on. I mean, their running back just destroyed 2 of our players, and I can't believe that we let ourselves get embarrassed like that. We're still holding strong going into the 4th quarter, but no matter how things unfold here at the 10-yard line, they're going to be able to make it a 1-possession game, and all we have to do on 3rd and goal is drop some guys back in coverage, so we should be fine. I thought for sure they'd just take their field goal, but they are going for it on 4th and goal, and come on, we're going to get over to that ball with Dixon. So Georgia just sold the game here down on the goal line, and they've given an opportunity to Michael Hawkins Jr. to run up his stats. This is exactly what we were looking for, but the real important matchup is this next one against Texas. They're coming off of a loss on the road at Louisiana Monroe, so the Longhorns have already left their fans disappointed, but I'm hoping we can further that with a win, because that would mean a winning record in the Red River rivalry in this rebuild. Knocking off another challenge would be nice, so you know what we have to do here, and Michael Hawkins Jr. has so much green grass in front of him, but he doesn't make it all the way, and he fumbled it. Are you serious? This ball literally just dropped in bounds for the Longhorns to pick up, but I think we've been bailed out, because they're saying that player was out of bounds and it doesn't count as a recovery. That means we get a touchdown that we didn't deserve, and throughout the rest of the first half, Texas hasn't been able to bounce back from that. They can't get it out of their mind. We keep on scoring, and I'm so confident that I'm going for it on 4th and 1, which we are going to convert over to Kearney, and this team is so good. I'm very happy with what we have. We got to use our backups for almost the entire second half, and unless we somehow play the Longhorns in the playoffs, we've secured a winning record versus them in this rebuild. It was very important that we made sure we ran the Red River rivalry, and now we can shift our focus to getting championships and Heisman trophies. Even though for the first time in this rebuild, we're struggling to pull in some of these big name recruits, I'm not worried because I feel like we're playoff bound, and losing a game or 2 wouldn't be a big deal, but I do want to make sure that we beat Texas A&M. Before I sim for a few weeks, I checked back in on the Heisman race, and we have nobody in here, so I don't know what happened to Michael Hawkins Jr., but these stats aren't good enough. Over this 3-game stretch, he's going to have to put up some better numbers, and we won 38-0, which gives you a pretty good idea of how good this team is. Missouri's our visit week, and this is the final one that we're simulating, where they somehow come out on top by 6, and that means we're only able to convince these 5 players to come play for the Sooners. I can't believe that just happened. Mike Hawkins Jr. went off, but apparently this game went into multiple overtimes, and now we find ourselves a game back in our division in the SEC. We also don't have a quarterback in the Heisman race, even though he should be, and that's because he's leading the country in passing yards. Things are starting to fall apart in these final 2 seasons. And does Texas A&M have Arch Manning? I feel like that has to be him, and I'll go check the depth chart to see if he transferred there. Wow, we're really facing off against Arch Manning in an Aggies jersey, and on this 4th and 1 early in the game, we're going to mess it up. I don't know what our offensive line was doing there, but it wasn't very helpful. This isn't good, and they are out there in Wildcat down on the 5-yard line, which is about to pay off. We knew exactly what was coming. I even ran commit, but they still scored, so the pressure is on us to respond back, and we just had somebody open in the end zone, but I was terrified of throwing it. That was such a blind read, it somehow still went straight to a defender. But ever since that moment, Mike Hawkins Jr. cannot miss. He is playing out of his mind, and Burley almost got free. Michael Hawkins on a 3rd and 5 is going to laser through this zone coverage, and with the receiving core that I've built on this team, it has been so easy to just get around the defense over and over. I was a little bit worried with how we started, but ever since we've been fine, and it also helps that Arch Manning's had a pretty rough time against our defense. This is the final play of the half, or at least I thought it was, but Texas A&M got lucky. That drop gave them a chance to kick a field goal, and I don't know why Texas has been so bad in this rebuild. I'm using Oklahoma though, so it's not something that's an issue, and I'm just trying not to throw an interception in this position, so sometimes you have to use the legs of your quarterback to do that, and my main goal has to be getting him a Heisman Trophy, but that's an interception. That's not the way I was hoping to end the 3rd quarter, and it's why we probably have a better chance at winning the Heisman Heisman Trophy if I just sim stuff, but they dropped that too. So they struggled more than us, and that means we've handed them their first loss of the year. Michael Hawkins Jr. should be in the Heisman race again, especially since that one result has us back up to number 5 in the country, and that's what I like to see, even if Iowa somehow is a quarterback above us. I can't believe what I'm seeing, but the Hawkeyes have an actual offense on this file, and those numbers beat out anything Michael Hawkins Jr.'s done. If I play in any more games, I'm just going to throw interceptions, so I have to simulate, and that's exactly why I did it. He throws for 5 touchdowns with no picks. We have locked in our spot in the SEC championship, but I want a first round bye in the playoffs, and I'm sure we're going to play Georgia in that. To end the year, we have the Bedlam series, and I've not played a single one of these in this rebuild, so I can see why they canceled it in real life. It's a shame it is though, and all 3 of these 81 overall battles are going to the offseason. While we only picked up 2 more signings, but they're both 5 stars. Going into conference championship week, a Heisman Trophy is on the line, and Georgia's been so annoying because we have to play them again. All I can do is throw for as many touchdowns as possible, and assuming we win, we'd also have a first round bye in the playoffs. I think the biggest thing is there is zero room for error. I cannot mess up, and even though we got down into the red zone early, they've already gotten us to a 3rd and 10 where our corner route is wide open. Cade McIntyre, our tight end's probably been one of our best targets, and I'm not too worried about getting a defensive stop right now because we need this to be a shootout. I am getting a little antsy with some of these throws, forcing it into those windows, but I feel like I need to get 8 passing touchdowns in this game to win the Heisman Trophy, and oh no, I just hit the wrong button. And you all do not watch me for the gameplay. We all know that I am not the most skilled whenever it comes to stuff like that. I can do my best, but I am blind. I stare down one route, and I'm going to get exposed on the new game. Bruce Petty was very petty at the end of that play though, because after he brought in this touchdown, he just trucked number 8 because he felt like it. Look at that. That's the type of dedication you want to see out of your players, and we continue to move it down the field. All it took was getting 1 stop. I feel like we'll pull away, but we almost need it to be a little bit close so Hawkins Jr. stays out there on the field, and I just threw up a 50-50 ball because I wanted to. I saw we had the bigger wide receiver, and Zion Kearney is that guy. For the stat line, I just risked an interception, and I think it was worth it because that could be the difference between a Heisman Trophy and no Heisman, and I want to get the ball back one more time before halftime. If we can get a stop on 3rd and 14, we will make that happen, and that's what we do. So we're going to burn a timeout and then do our best to push it down the field. Their zone coverage is not sticking with our tight end, so we've already advanced it decently far, and now I'm going to roll out, take this risky route. I don't know what we were doing, and it's probably best if I just set my feet. I don't think we have the speed to beat Georgia deep, but if they're going to come out pressing us like this, I feel like we have to try it. And what a shame that the first half is about to end in a way I was not thinking. No points for us, only 28. So I've had to lock in here in this 3rd quarter. Even the refs are trying to take away some of our scores, but we need every single one of them, so I'm hoping they let us keep this. And come on, buddy, there is a Heisman Trophy on the line. At the end of the day, I'd get 6 of them before the backups went in, so I have to hope that this stat line is enough. And Oklahoma is celebrating their 2nd straight SEC championship. Well, it was a close call, but my efforts did not go unnoticed. So we've won at least 1 Heisman Trophy like Oklahoma used to do all the time, and now I'm counting up all of the All-Americans. There were 4 on the offensive side of the ball, and then we have another 1 or 2 on defense, which means we've fully knocked off that challenge, and all that's left is 1 Heisman and 2 championships. It's actually going to be possible to complete everything still because of this insane stat line. And we went with a pass-heavy offense, which means the running game was definitely forgotten about. It led to 3 players being 1,000-yard receivers though, including tight end Cade McIntyre getting 19 touchdowns. And that should have won him the Biletnikoff, but he wasn't even in the running for it. He also was 4th in the running for the best tight end. There's just no way that should be the case. But James Madison's had almost 1,600 receiving yards, so I guess it makes sense. Anyway, what really matters is the college football playoffs, and I think we're going to be stuck playing the Aggies again. I don't know why the committee would put them on our part of the bracket, but they were trying to instigate a rematch, and Iowa State didn't let that happen. It's hard to believe that they'd come out winning like this, but the weather had a harsh effect on Arch Manning, and I'm so thankful that the Cyclones did that because they're only an 83 overall. Now, I'm not going to guarantee we beat them, but even though Oklahoma normally struggles in the playoffs, they should win this, and that's because the Cyclones are missing 2 of their best players. They've still done a really good job of keeping it close though, and going into the half, we needed that. Once you pull away in NCAA Football 14, the computer normally doesn't come back, but every so often I make some bad mistakes, and getting us into a 3rd and 26 is one of them. We just have to throw up a jump ball hoping for the best, and I don't like that we punted it, but sometimes that's just what you have to do. Our defense is still going to hold it down, and eventually we are bound to score with the reigning Heisman winner, but their defense has not let us scramble much. Michael Hawkins Jr. is normally more of a pocket passer, but they've been generating too much pressure for that, and we had no choice but to put a hot one into the end zone to score. They've fallen apart at the end, but I'll vouch for the Cyclones that they played us well, and I'm just curious who our next playoff matchup will be against. I highly doubt it's going to be another 81 overall team, but it will be against a school that left the Pac-12. It is so weird to me that these two teams are in completely different conferences, and the higher overall seed, Stanford's gonna come out on top, but not by much. The only way they could lose now is if they somehow gave up a Hail Mary, but that was never gonna happen. There's zero chance that they actually pull it off. So we're gonna be playing the Cardinal for a spot in the championship. I'm okay with that, and I see that Fresno State's still in the running too, so I hope that they keep on advancing and we're gonna be just fine. Even though Stanford's had a really good year, being an 84 overall means they're not gonna be able to keep up with our players, and after saying that, I can't lose to a team like this, but they've played very well so far. I always forget if you have a good season, sometimes your players perform way better than they should, so Stanford's not been easy to score on, but we should finally do it. Of course, it was gonna be Cade McIntyre that we found, but I can't get too happy because they're about to respond back and we just missed an easy tackle. We don't have the speed that I was hoping for either, so we can't bomb them deep over the top, and I think we have to go for it on 4th and 2. There is no way that they would expect a run here, and we are going to pick it up, but it should not be this much of a struggle to move the ball, and I'm throwing this one straight to their defense. I don't know what I was thinking. I should have set my feet. I don't want to talk about it at all. This is not going how I was hoping it would. They just picked us off, and they scored again in the 3rd quarter, so all of a sudden we are losing by 14. This is not looking very good for us, but the hitch was open for a second, and I think we have to go back to the ground on 3rd down where Burley gets the pitch, and I'm just gonna run into the end zone. I shouldn't have messed around like that though, because then they'd score again. They're playing us so well, and I had to go for the deep shot once. Snyder is going to break free, and Zach Snyder is what we needed with 4 minutes left in this semifinal. I cannot lose to Stanford, especially after thinking this was going to be super simple, and that defensive stop gets us the ball back. My main goal has pretty much just been to make sure that if anybody has the final drive in this game, it is us, and I don't want to go into overtime versus Stanford, but we have no choice. It wouldn't be smart to risk the entire rebuild on 1 2-point conversion, so we're just going to have to hope for the best in extra time, and on 1st and 10, they're trying to hand it off, but we're all over it. I am so nervous right now. We really need a defensive stop, and I don't know why they're running the ball backwards. It is 3rd and 16. Surely they're not going to reach the end zone with one play. So we've held the Cardinal to a field goal, and we should probably keep things on the ground the way that I like to throw interceptions, which is why I tried to scramble. It really stinks that Michael Hawkins Jr. isn't a fast QB. He would have been gone. And now we're faced with a 3rd and 11 where I was told it was going to be cover 2, but we have to throw the ball away. Our quarterback's also laying down injured. And what is happening in this semifinal matchup against Stanford? We're stuck using Silva, somebody I have not seen throughout this entire rebuild, but it looks like he is a little bit faster, which I would love to take advantage of. And now I'm just going to throw a laser towards the end zone. Getting the defensive stop is where things get tricky though, and I'm hoping our zone can play that football. Simpson comes away with the interception, and this one is over. Scott Simpson's just sent us to the national championship, and if I had to guess, it's going to be against Notre Dame. The Irish come in at a 91 overall, while Fresno State's only a 79, and the Bulldogs' undefeated season has unfortunately come to an end here. So like I thought, we're playing against Notre Dame, and we have to win this game no matter what, because if we lose, it won't be possible for me to win 2 championships. There's so much pressure going into this game, but we have a team that's capable of coming out on top, and the only thing that really concerns me is Zion Kearney's out for 2 weeks with an ACL sprain, and Michael Hawkins Jr. is staying injured. We used Silva in overtime to come out on top, but I don't want to use a backup in the national championship, so we're just going to keep running and hope that Mike Hawkins Jr. is eventually healthy. We're still going to score though, so maybe using Julius Silva won't be the end of the world after all. I mean, we should be able to lean on our defense. They've done a solid job pretty much all season, and the game has let me put Mike Hawkins Jr. back out there on the field, which is very nice. He put us in a position to go for it on 4th and 1, so you know that we had to, and that's going to lead to a lot of yards. With him out there on the field, I feel confident we're going for it on a 4th and 5, and it would lead to a touchdown, which just opened up the floodgates for us to get even more. We've had a very good first half, scoring 28 on the Fighting Irish, and they're trying to get at least a little more before halftime, but I'm not sure if they're going to be able to. We got to knock it down, and that's not what I wanted to happen. This catch is literally insane, keeping Notre Dame in it, but they've never been able to figure out how to stop our offense. So in the 3rd quarter, we'd score another 14 straight. From an entertainment perspective, it would have been a lot better if this national championship was close, but we just did whatever we wanted to versus them. And Julius Silva even got in at the end again because we were winning by so much. I'm happy to say we've won our first championship with Oklahoma in this rebuild, but we still need another one plus a Heisman Trophy to be successful. And I'm not sure what our team's going to look like next season. I feel like a lot of players are going to leave early to the NFL, so we might have to put out some new starters. And there's no way Michael Hawkins Jr. returns after he broke a ton of records. He had an incredible year, and we're going into the 5th season of the rebuild, which has me a little nervous because we lost our QB, Zion Kearney, and this junior right into the NFL early, and then also all of these other players that are graduating. But I have to trust that I've been building up a solid roster behind them, and I just brought in 2 more 5-star recruits. In a class of 9 players, 7 of them were 5 stars. But I said going into the recruiting period that I wasn't going for a lot of guys, I just wanted the top talent. And we have so many dudes at some of these positions that they probably won't see the field anyway. It can never hurt to have some extra players on your roster though, and I love moving linebackers over to left or right end whenever they get a big overall boost. As for our training results, we have to go through this one last time, and since we were using such a big program, most of our improvements have stayed very consistent. I'm even able to max out our game management coach skill tree since we're not going to be recruiting, and I'm already seeing way too many ranked teams on our schedule. The SEC is always going to be difficult. I just noticed that Paul Burley didn't improve at all though, and I don't want to start a guy with 80 speed, so it looks like Taylor Tatum is our starting running back. And we're a 93 overall again, but this time our defense is the better unit. It would make no sense for us not to be projected to be the #1 team since we won it all, but what's really going to be difficult is getting another player to win the Heisman, and that's how we'll find out if Julius Silva's the real deal or not. Due to how well we did last season, I'm not that worried about simulating games, and Silva was amazing, but our defense gave up 38 points. I'm hoping we can sort that out against the Gators, and anytime we run into a top 10 team this season, I'm going to hop into those games because everything else we should be fine in. So far against Florida, we have struggled. We've only gotten 6 points, and our defense needed to get a stop here, but our defenders have been glitching out on weird passes like that, so it's on us to drive down the field and respond back, but they're getting in pressure so quick and we can't do a thing. It's almost like we just do better in sim on offense and maybe defense too, but thankfully that was marked half an inch short because we got the ball back, we've started driving down the field, and I'm hoping that we can at least get it within a point or two before the half. Robinson's going to break a tackle, and Larry Robinson was not going to end that play without scoring. There's no reason to hold off on going for the 2-point conversion either, and our fans might not be too happy with us, but if we do better in the second half, we can still pull away against the Gators, and we're still breaking tackles. Larry Robinson has looked good, so I'm going to keep on going back to him. He's going to go down at the 8, and then on 1st and goal, we should have reached the end zone, but I didn't want to force it, and then I hit the wrong button. That is why I'm terrible at this game, and oh my gosh, can somebody at least make the tackle? I just know whenever I get new people watching my channel on College Football 25, they're going to be so confused because I'm going to stink. They're going to make comments about it, but there was a penalty, and I am accepting that all day. We've gotten to the point in this game where pretty much every play is a key play that is going nowhere, and back at returner, I have the player that we recruited a few seasons ago, the athlete that had 98 speed, so I'm curious to see what he's able to do here, and you can just tell that he's one of the quickest players out there. That's going to be exciting to use this year, and we almost took a sack, so you can just see that we are struggling, and Larry Robinson gets it. This time around, I'm not going to hit the wrong button. I'm going to be a little bit more patient, and even if Florida is able to score here, it wouldn't be the end of the world, but we should be getting that interception. Simpson has the ball in his hands, and he is not going to be caught. He has been one of these stars in this video, and I cannot believe that we just got to play like that. Cornerback Scott Simpson is the reason we already have a title, and now he's the reason that we're starting the year 2-0. There's still a lot of things that we could improve on, but I'm confident in the roster that we've built, and Julius Silva has gotten himself into the Heisman conversation. LSU is normally a game that I'd play, but we're going to skip over it this year because I trust our guys to go into Death Valley, get the win, and we might as well just advance to week 6 whenever we play Texas. It was still closer than I liked, but we took down LSU, and Arkansas also lost, so now we're left with Mississippi State, and they're never too good at football. Just looking around our division, Ole Miss is ranked 7th, Texas is 19, and Texas A&M's number 3. So those are the 3 games that we have to worry about on our schedule, but we currently have 2 players on the Heisman watch, not just 1 anymore, and it's been a while since we've lost the Red River rivalry. With all this momentum, we should come out on top. I said we'd only face off against top 10 teams on our schedule, and I want to be excited about that result, but I think Silva might have gotten injured. He's not on the injury report long term, so that's a good sign, but we cannot afford to have stuff happening to him, and that's what always makes it so difficult to have multiple Heisman winners. Now we're simulating the next 2, and I probably shouldn't be doing this against Alabama, but we got what I was looking for. That means we're going to keep the number 1 spot, but Ole Miss is creeping up at number 5, and if they beat us in our next game, that would knock us out of the conference championship. This one is worth hopping into, especially since Julius Silva's atop the Heisman watch now, and their defense is only an 83 overall, so I'm hoping we can exploit that as the number 1 offense in the country, even if we're missing our starting running back. Taylor Tatum's one of the injuries we're dealing with, but as long as it's not Julius Silva, I don't care. And maybe I should have, because as time ticks down at the end of this first half, we haven't scored a single point and Silva's not going anywhere. We also couldn't take a timeout in time, which means we're ending the second quarter with no points, and I don't know what's been happening in this game. We're in a tough position at the moment. We cannot let Ole Miss do this to us, and I missed. So Chris Hollins makes it 17-0, and we have to throw the ball. I am so over trying to run it with an 80 speed running back against them. We'd eventually get a touchdown, but what's more important is getting gaining defensive stops, and that should happen on this play, so it's not over yet. And I feel like this is where having a guy that has 98 speed returning punts for us could really make a difference. We're going to do the one little back juke there to confuse some players, and then we just got to get over to this right side of the field, which put us in the position to score again, and now we just have to get one more defensive stop against the Rebels. That might be hard to come by though, because I've been doing my best to get them off of the field and it's just not happening. We're starting to burn through our timeouts, and on 2nd and goal, it's an option over to this right side where we make the tackle, so we still have a little bit of hope. I'm just going to run commit up the middle. Surely that's what they do on 3rd and goal, and they do. So there's some hope for the Sooners. I wish I could say we've played better offensively, but we haven't, and with a minute and a half left on the clock, we have to find a way to reach the end zone. Silva might have just broken free though with the option run, and this defender's trying his best to bring him down. Julius Silva just did something incredible, putting his body on the line to hopefully help us get the lead right here. And even though I don't love using Blake Bishop, him and all 80 of his speed were able to put us up by a point. We might have scored a little too quick though, because all Ole Miss has to do is get a field goal against us, and I am very worried that they're going to, but Simpson just messed up and he also missed the tackle. What was I doing? Sometimes it's best to just not click on to a player, and we're in a tough position because I think Ole Miss is already in field goal range unless we force a fumble. At the end of the day, it just wasn't meant to be, and we're not going to have an undefeated season. I hope that we can get revenge against Chris Hollins in the future though, because it'd be nice to beat them in the playoffs, and our ranking barely dropped. The real issue though is if they win out, they are going to make the SEC championship, and now we have to face Missouri, who beat us in overtime last year. I will be extremely salty if we lose this one now, but we beat them by 22, and we might need to hop into this one against the Aggies. Currently, Julius Silva is falling a little bit down in the Heisman race, and if we drop another game, that might put us out of the 12-team playoffs. Considering Texas A&M has 3 losses and they're ranked 14th, I think we'd still be okay though, and what I really want to do is at least play the Bedlam series once in this video. Going into week 15, we're still ranked behind Ole Miss, which means the Sooners have missed out on making the SEC championship, but we have an opportunity to go out, destroy the Cowboys, and ruin their year even more than they already have themselves with these back-to-back losses. I'd also like to point out, since we're not in a conference championship game, Julius Silva needs to have like 10 touchdowns, and even then that might not be enough to win the Heisman. It's my fault though, we should have beaten Ole Miss, and I've already had to carry one quarterback to a Heisman trophy, so I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to pull it off again. I think that's going to be the challenge that I fail in this video, because with 2 minutes left in the 2nd quarter, they've held us to a long field goal that we barely made, and we're not scoring many points, but they aren't either, so it ends up being okay. They've put together a drive to end this first half though. It's not looking good. One of our defensive linemen got ran over, and how do you let a quarterback do this to you? That's the guy that I moved over from linebacker. I should have known he might not be strong enough. Now they're going to try to do the same thing, but it didn't work. They've stayed in hurry up mode. I guess they're not going to take a timeout and kick their field goal. They want to get the points, and come on, we're going to bring you down. The Cowboys just got very greedy against us there to end the half, but they started the 2nd half with a long drive and a field goal to tie it up at 10, and I can't believe how badly this game's gone for Silva. I was hoping that he'd score so many touchdowns that you'd have to give him the Heisman Trophy, but that wasn't the case, and now I'm just trying to get him points late in the game, but I don't think it's going to be enough no matter what happens. It's a shame that I'm gonna fail a challenge in this video, but I made myself a really hard set of them, and I never mind giving away another copy of College Football 25 to one of you. All of you deserve it. Even though we're only up by 7 with a minute left in this game, I'm still trying to stat pad, and that's what's gonna happen here. And after getting the ball back with 15 seconds left, you best believe we're gonna go for some touchdowns against them, which we might just get. Robinson's gotta break free, but he didn't, putting the pressure on us, and that is gonna be intercepted. Not a good way to end the game. I know that we're gonna make the playoffs as a top seed with a bye, and that we've also owned the Bedlam series in this rebuild, but Julius Silva doesn't deserve a Heisman Trophy, and I hope in the new college football game there are no divisions in the conferences, so the top 2 teams actually make the conference championship. I mean, I guess there is still a small chance that Julius Silva wins the Heisman, but I am not expecting it. We're about to see what happens, and it is gonna be a 2nd place finish. That means whether we win another championship or not, I'm not gonna complete all the video's challenges, and Silva won literally every award besides the one that we needed. He was a beast, also scoring 5 touchdowns on the ground, but receiving wise, without some of our top targets from last year, this group took a big fall off, and Ole Miss lost in the SEC championship, making 10-3 Georgia the #1 seed. I have never understood how the rankings work in this game, but if Baylor wins, we'd have a chance to play the Heisman winner, and they have the home field advantage, so I'm assuming that'll be our opponent. They had other plans though, losing 35-28, which means that we have to play Clemson instead. Currently, the Tigers are missing their starting quarterback, so that's another reason I thought that Baylor would beat them, but I guess not, and we should have an easy path to the semifinals. Every time I say a game's gonna be a cakewalk though, we seem to struggle, and I don't love that we've already given up 3 points. I want to take the lead though, so I'm gonna go for it on 4th and goal, and after they tacked on another 3, it would be ideal if this was the final drive of the first half. The The issue with that though is they've gotten us to a 3rd and long, and their safety was trying to stick on Robinson. So we could go up by 4, but you know that we're going to be aggressive again. Now on 1st and goal, we have plenty of time to stand back in the pocket, run up with Silva, and dive into the end zone, but we fumbled it, and I do this every video. I legit think I've done that in every playoffs in a rebuild. And why does this always happen to me? We can never get the ball over the line in time. I've had to come out sweating in this 3rd quarter so we don't end up losing to Clemson, and if this works, I'm going to be shocked. They're about to make the tackle, but we fight our way in. Oh my gosh, I cannot believe that worked. I'm pretty sure that was our kicker that made the catch, and here in the 3rd quarter, our defense has already gotten a pick 6 for a touchdown, so we're doing very well. But things got even better when our defense did it again. It's not even me doing it, it's been throughout sim, so it's not like I'm the reason we're doing well. And every time I hop into the game defensively, we seem to give up points to them. We're completely fine though, because one more touchdown would seal the win for us, and we're coming very close. But even if we don't get in, a field goal puts us up by 3 possessions, and I'm ready to see who we're playing in the semifinals. I'm sure Oklahoma fans still want to see me win a 2nd championship, and I'm just curious if this team and myself are capable of it. We've already played Florida before this season, so I'm hoping that we're able to beat them again. And I also saw that Ole Miss might be in the championship. Beating them would be the best way to end this video, but we still have to take care of business here against the Gators, and it's looking pretty good so far. Their offense hasn't scored a single point, and it's about to be 21-0. So you'd think that they'd show a little bit of life at some point, but we continue to make it worse against them. I mean, they would eventually get it down the field, but they still have to get a touchdown, and they're going to be passive and settle for 3 instead. This is nuts. They just don't want to win the game, but that works for us because we're on to the national championship. It's either going to be against Notre Dame again, or even better, Ole Miss, but there's a storyline with both of these colleges. Well, it looks like the Fighting Irish are coming out on top, so we're not going to get another shot at the Rebels, but we could beat Notre Dame for both of our championships. I'm already not happy that we didn't complete all the challenges, so it's only right I get the Sooners another natty, and at least then I can say it's still a really good rebuild. It looks like we are going to score the first touchdown of the day, but that could have been ruled as a fumble, and we got very lucky. Now Notre Dame has gotten it down the field against us, but we got an instant sack on that play, and here on 2nd and goal, they've decided to run the football. I gotta say, I'm gonna miss NCAA Football 14 because I always felt confident with our defense in the red zone, and on the new game, I'm gonna have to figure out a new strategy. I'm also probably gonna be terrible at offense for at least the first few months, but I'm so excited for all of it, and once again, this was just a very boring national championship. We had no issues against Notre Dame, so they're gonna be the runners-up 2 seasons in a row, and I'll take completing everything besides winning 2 Heismans. It's just another copy of College Football 25 that I have to give away to a random commenter, and also make sure that you're subscribed. I'd say this was a pretty successful 5 years at Oklahoma, especially with how many players we just put into the NFL. We had 4 first-round picks. This is a huge class, and it's sad to say this, but I think this is one of the final rebuilds that I'm ever going to do on NCAA Football 14, so make sure to check out some of the others if you want to see more.